Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel. Okay, so this one's going to fall more into the category of a quasi review rather than a reaction. The song is by Tool, and I'm a big fan of Tool. Enchroma is one of my favorite albums. 10,000 Days is definitely an album of mine that's constantly on rotation. Now, the interesting thing about Tool is that I have an interesting relationship with them. When Enchroma came out, I was working in a record store many years ago, and I picked it up. I don't know how many of you understand like the or remember the album art for that. It's a lenticular case, and at the time that was really unusual. In fact, the way that they actually did the lenticular with the actual CD case having the lenticules on there, like the ripples to make the image 3D, was super unusual as well, because they started printing them on like almost like an insert, like like you'd find on anything that's a lenticular, like a sticker or something like that. But Tool did it differently. They had it built into the case, which is really interesting as well. And I mean, we all know Tool have always done remarkable things with their album art, not the least of which with Fear Inoculum as well. But my relationship with Tool is a little bit different to a lot of people's, I'd imagine, in that I've never sought out Tool albums specifically. I've always had them eventually find me, if that makes sense. So I bought Enchroma because the album art just blew my mind, and I had no idea what the band sounded like or anything like that. And, you know, I played it and I really enjoyed it, got into it. I'm pretty sure it was one of those albums that stayed in my Discman. Yes, that's right, Discman. For months and months and months. So the relationship with Tool is interesting because I've never gone, we know when 10,000 Days came out, I'm pretty sure I bought it yet again for the incredible album art. And I bought it and it probably even remained sealed for a really long time because I am typically the kind of person who doesn't, it's like that sentiment with like, I don't need to meet new friends. I've got enough friends. And I've always had that sensation with music. I'm not one of those guys who's just voraciously consuming music all the time. But when I put on a CD, typically, you know, unless in this case, I'm analyzing songs and I'm picking things apart, a lot of times I'm just like, okay, yeah, it's another band doing more derivative sort of stuff, you know, that's why this journey's been great. So I've discovered so many different tangents that I'm not familiar with. And it's been kind of a joy to sort of get back into music in that regard. But getting back to Tool, you know, it was only sort of in the last couple of years that I started to even get into 10,000 Days. I've owned it for however long it's been out. But, you know, I used to listen to The Grudge. Oh, wait, that's on Lateralis, isn't it? Yeah. 10,000 Days. Wait. See, again, I don't even know the album track listings of the songs. And if you put a Tool song on halfway through, there's only a handful of songs that I would even be able to tell you what song it is. But it doesn't change the fact that every time I listen to it, it does something to me. You know, it doesn't matter what song it is, whether it's Hooker with a Penis or Enchroma or Lateralis or, you know, anything. There's, you know, there's something in it that just draws me in, and it makes me feel like I'm listening to something that's more important than just a band playing music. But again, that's sort of part and parcel with it. I kind of have this sensation where I don't want to just devour all of Tool's material so that then there's nothing left. And so I find that these things find you in time. Life is long, right? You don't have to have everything today. And so Fear Inoculum has been out for a while, and the buzz around it was enormous, you know, and of course the Spotify album drops and stuff like that meant that I listened to a lot of Tool. But for whatever reason, I never got into Fear Inoculum yet for the same reason. I assume that it's, at some point when I'm ready, the albums will find me, or the songs will find me. Does that make any sense? That's just the way I've always related to Tool, and a lot of other bands too, but Tool specifically, it's a matter of playing the waiting game, and eventually, because when you go seeking it out and you listen to it and you hurriedly just, you know, push it into your brain, I don't think you're absorbing the nutrients. You know what I mean? The bioavailability of, you know, the magic isn't as strong as if you're in the right headspace at the right time and it comes to you. Now, so what that means is you're in luck, because while I'm familiar with most of Tool's old back catalogue now, Fear Inoculum is still a grey area to me. I've heard obviously the single, everyone has, but I know Descending is a very popular song, and so I'm going to jump into that one today, and yeah, this would be really interesting. Let's have a look at Tool Descending, and hopefully I'm in the right headspace to take it in. never know which way's up. It always sounds like traffic noise from 3 blocks over, and then you hear organic sounds and stuff. The layers are beautifully put together. That sounds like the ocean. It's like I just asked Google to play ocean sounds. Oh, nice. What a great bass sound. Okay, I'm loath to stop, and I know you're all going, "Why did you stop?" And I'm like, I know. But if it goes too far, then there's a lot of stuff I'm going to miss. First of all, that beautiful bass sound that you're hearing Justin Chancellor playing at the start, it's like he's playing like a low octave, and then he's playing some high notes to sort of give it that sort of range. It almost sounds like a guitar, but with a bass playing alongside it. And he's got a subtle flange or a chorusing effect on that to sort of give it that swooshy sound. Like, I'll show you. Oh, that's not it. There we go. And oh, the other thing too that I wanted to mention, there's like this little sound. It almost looks like sounds like somebody stepping into sand, or like almost like a duck quack sort of thing that's in the background audio. They somehow extract that, and then they ping pong it from left to right to give a little bit of like an organic heartbeat rhythm or whatever over the bass. It's around here somewhere. Sorry. There it is. Hear that? It's like a Yeah, but you can hear that chorusing on the bass. It sort of gives it that rounded, plucky sort of sound. Everything's really up front in the mix too. It's beautifully recorded. The cymbals are right in the soundscape. It almost feels like you're sitting at the drum kit playing it yourself. So beautiful. There's, I think, a Leslie effect on the guitar too. It gives it sort of like wah, 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 sort of thing. And call me crazy, it could be just affecting Maynard's voice, or they've got it on both. Let me hear that again. Yeah. Wah, 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 wah. Really subtle. That's great. What is that sound? this is what you're hearing right now is the key to why Tool has that sort of reverence and mystical component. Everything always reverts back to that drone and that pulse. And it's just, there's something super tribal about it. Super, what's the word I'm looking for? Tribal. The adjectives are escaping me right now, but you know, it's that initial, you know, primal urge to just bob along to it. Like there's that sort of rocking sort of sensation, which is like somnambulistic in some regard. Like it's sort of, it almost, it feels trance-like, obviously. But that's sort of a little bit of a pedestrian way of describing it. It's much deeper than that. Yeah, that's, wow, okay. Let me just see if I can go back a little bit and give you the impression of what I'm talking about. It just immediately makes you want to rock, which is a primal musical sensation. That's, you know, it's almost, what's the word? Involuntary. You know what I mean? It's like your heart beating. It's just going to happen. You just feel your body being pulled in that direction, you know? And that goes way back to like tribalism and ceremonial sort of, you know, campfire sort of rhetoric. It's Justin doing it, that doodle 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 doodle. Oh, Adam. Now we're double timing that feeling. Danny Carey and I think it's Vlad from Ginger are both masters of using their toms. You know, it's like they're almost like loath to use their snares unless they absolutely have to, because it gives you that sensation of tribalism and groove, and you know, it doesn't punctuate the rhythm. The rhythm's always in motion, so you don't want to have specifically like a very hard sort of start point. And then it's all embellished with cymbal swells and the occasional sort of polyrhythm or something on a bell or something like that to really throw you off for a loop. Man. Cool triplet feel. How do these guys play these songs night after night over and over and not get swept away by it and just fall into like this improvisational nightmare of just being swept away by the rhythms, you know what I mean? I honestly don't know. So he's bringing the snare in now, just to give it a loop sensation. We've got a start and end point now. And then listen to the reverb tail on Maynard's voice. Nice harmonies too. Come on. Such a crazy rhythm. Listen to that muted bass. It sounds like the thump of a heartbeat. That's so cool. Hang on, let's go back. Is it there the whole time? So that was beautifully executed. It's the bass guitar was muted, right? So what that means is I need a pick. So if you're playing an open note, right? If you're playing an open note, it'll ring out. But if you mute it, it means placing your hand on the string so it doesn't ring. You get like this percussive sort of dub sort of sound like. And you notice over time, he was sort of letting that off and letting the note ring a little bit more. That's like the muted sound, and then you gradually, and it just makes over time underneath the guitar, as the guitar evolves and sort of brings itself in, the bass sort of like opens itself up melodically, and it's just a beautiful little transition moment there. You know, palm muting and stuff is really not unusual, particularly in metal, but its effective use can sometimes be the difference between something that sounds really sort of trashy and messy and something that sounds really together and well thought out. Hear it opening up. Boom, boom, boom. Sorry, I will go back and get that transition again, but like, look, I'd be remiss of me to not spend some time focusing on Maynard's poetry, because while a lot of metal singers out there just try to go for shock value or write things that are, you know, aggressively sort of like I'm trying to think of the word. They deliberately try to shock you with shock value, sacrilegious sort of things. And again, if you're Lorna Shore, then, you know, that makes perfect sense and it all sort of fits. But Maynard always resists the urge to sort of use the lowest common denominator when it comes to writing lyrics. And he writes these insane passages of just enlightened sort of rhetoric. And then he figures out a way to put it into the rhythm. Like that last section there, stir us from our wanton slumber, mitigate our ruin, call us all to arms and order. And it's, in any other situation, it'd be kind of tricky to make those syllables fit, but just listen to the way that he deftly sort of squeezes it in by contracting certain syllables and expanding others, and, you know, and racing through certain parts of the line. So that's not even a complete thought. It's just stir us from our, and he gives it room to breathe. You know, wanton slumber. You could have got a singular idea out in that line, but he's happy to just let it flow, like that passage flow through over quite a long period of the song. And that da 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 da, that's also very, very Maynard as well, because he had too many syllables at the end there. So where he leaves so much space between stir us from our pause, wanton slumber, mitigate our ruin, call us. He has to jump straight in on call. So essentially where it's written in the lyrics here is 4 lines. It really is 2 short lines and 1 really long line. Mitigate our ruin, call us to arms and order, right? But just the way that he manages to fit all of that in. Yeah, it's wild. And it never sounds forced either. These dudes are like robots, man. Hang on. What? How is it? Is that a slide? Or is he... It can't have just been with his fingers. Okay, I've got to know what that is. Is he playing a fretless guitar? Or, I don't think he uses a whammy bar, does he? I don't think any of his guitars use a whammy bar, but even so, it doesn't sound right because the other incidental strings will be going out of pitch. I'm confused. Is it a slide, maybe? It doesn't have that glassy sort of shimmeriness of a slide, though. Maybe it does. It's a slide. It's got to be. Must be, yeah. Okay, if anyone's confused about what I'm talking about, perfect example. I don't know why I have to keep picking up this acoustic guitar. It really doesn't translate well. But let's say, for example, you want to get like a slidey sort of sound. If you slide your fingers up the guitar, you'll hear the frets, which is these steel parts through here. Hear it sort of goes like that. Well, for a slide sound, as you could hear what Adam was playing there, it just has this nice sort of sort of thing, right? So there's 2 ways you can do that. You can have a guitar without frets, which is a real problem because guitarists typically haven't got the accuracy to be able to play in key like violinists do, because frets give you a lot of room. You can hit anywhere between these 2 lines and it's going to play an A, right? Whereas on a violin or a cello or something, you have to be right on that line to get the A, right? If you move it down here, it's A flat. It's flattening, right? But with a guitar, it doesn't matter. You can just do that. Now, if you want a sound that sounds like it's gliding like that, typically what you'll do is get a thing that slots onto your finger that's either made of brass or some sort of, you know, chrome or something, or even glass. Traditionally in blues, they used to have the necks of bottles. They'd get like the top of a bottle, break it off, file it down, and just put that on their finger. And what you end up getting is, this is going to be an atrocious sort of representation, but... Oops. See that? And so what he's doing is more like... That's what threw me though, because there wasn't that scratchiness. And I mean, he'd be playing in some sort of drop tuning, so you can play like... Oh, that sounds so bad. But you get the idea, right? But normally you just have one of those on this finger, usually your ring finger, and you just be boo, doo, 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 that sort of thing. So if you're wondering what that crazy sound was, pretty sure that's what it was. Let's go back a little bit so we can really enjoy that. Oh. You know what I think the difference is between these guys and a lot of other musicians, particularly who, you know, play metal or rock or whatever? is that it's always melody first with these guys. It doesn't matter if they're playing in 7/8 or if they're playing some ridiculous tempo change or, you know, rhythmic sort of anomaly or something like that. The melody is always what comes first. It's got to be a hummable melody so you can sing along to it. Like me and my friend Michael, name checking Michael there. We always make this joke when we're listening to Tool at work. We'll be humming along to it, and we always think it'd be hilarious if a bunch of Tool fans got together and made a covers album of Tool songs just by humming them, because everybody knows all the notes, you know. And part of the reason for that is that they're so melodically strong. It's a sum of its parts, but each of the parts is melodically strong, and so you can sort of, once you've heard the song 1,000 times, you can hum every single note in the guitar, and to a degree anyway. Or, you know, sort of, you can beatbox the drums or whatever, you know. But hang on, let's go back. Harmonized. That's really nice. What is that sound? I mean, whatever it is, it's some little percussive element with a huge reverb on it, but it just sounds sort of natural and organic in a really, really interesting way. What you were hearing there is Adam doing volume swells, which is where you hit a chord, then you turn the volume up on your guitar, so you get that, you know, that's really cool as well. Let's go back. It'd be interesting to hear this live, actually, because he's got overlapping guitar parts there. Where have I heard that rhythm before? Oh, 80s synth. I heard an anecdote actually when Tool did like a an album release party, like a pre-listening for industry types before this album came out. And one of the takeaways I got from reading what the journalist had to say was that Adam had made a lot of the guitar sounds, the synth sounds, and a lot of them he didn't save. He doesn't remember how he did them. He just, in the moment, just came up with these crazy sounds. But that's a really 80s sort of synth sound, which is great. And it's a lot of what, you know, same direction that like Muse was going in the last album. And I hear a lot of this 80s sort of synthesizer sort of sounds popping back up again. And it just works. It kind of reminds you of old video games, things like that. But see if you can hear it coming in. Sounds like Doctor Who. so tight, man. The guitar and bass rhythms just evolve so much over time. And let's go back before we get into the solo part. You can just hear like they're doing like a do 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 do. They always end up with like a double, like a did on the end of a lot of the riffs. And they dropped a beat there, like. Wah pedal. Oh, see again, that's why Adam is a genius, because he takes something that's so rhythmically structured. Remember when I said before about how Tool seems to make it seem they make it seem like they're doing all this really complex stuff, but they make it seem easy. They make it seem like it fits. It doesn't. It's not a challenge to listen to it, because rhythmically it's so based in like tribalist sort of rhythms and stuff like that that you don't have to learn them. You just get it. It's not complexity for complexity's sake. And one of the ways that Adam does plays around with that is he'll use really organic sounds with his guitar. And by that I mean he'll do like a wah effect, right? He had a wah on there, he had some delays. I think he was also playing around with his volume as well again, so he's getting some swells. And it sounds like something from nature, even a howling banshee from nature, but it sounds like a, you know, it doesn't sound clinical and clean and stuff, and which is a pretty big juxtaposition, because the initial part of the song, the intro, sounds very sterile and clean because there's not a lot going on, but it sort of slowly devolves into this psychedelic kind of, you know, like it's like it's a trip. It's exactly what it is. You know, it's descending. You're descending into that sort of new volatile reality. You know, and wow. One day I'll be able to fathom what all of that means. But today is not that day. But yeah, like I'm saying, just listen to this guitar sound. It's purely, it's organic. It sounds like a creature. It doesn't sound like notes being played. It sounds like just sounds. You know, he wavers between pitches and he sort of does swells and, you know. And the wah sound makes it sound pleading, like a call. That was great. Oh, it's being synthesized. That's so cool. So one thing I wanted to just point out just before we move on is that, like, I knew the song was ending because that outro phrasing is just Tool 101. It goes from these really long, complex rhythmic passages to these short sort of loops, essentially, that still evolve, but it's ba-da, ba-ba, ba-da, ba-ba. It reminds me, I think Enchroma sort of ends a little bit like that as well. Yeah, see that? It's like they're short, punctuated, syncopated little loops more than anything. And just having those guitar hits on the ends, bang, up, bang, you know, they're underpinned by the drums for a bit, and then the drums get taken away, and then the guitar's just out there free floating by itself. So cool. That's what I'm talking about. Wow, what an opus. We'll be right back. If you've seen any of Enchroma's viral videos, you know how much of a trip it can be to see colour for the first time. Very much like that last song we just listened to. 1 in 6 guys, 1 in 200 women are colorblind, and you can do something about it. If you click the link in the description, it'll take you to Enchroma, where you can get your eyes tested, find out what kind of color blindness you might have, and while you're there, pick up a pair of corrective glasses. There's frames and styles to suit everybody, and there's also a 60-day trial, so you really got nothing to lose. If you use the code CHAOS in the checkout, you'll get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you. All right, so how do you talk about Tool descending? To be perfectly honest, I don't know that I'll have too much to say. I feel like there's not much to add to the conversation that hasn't already been said. It's just perfection. Everything they do is perfect. There's no pulling it apart or dissecting it or whatever. It is what it is. I was just calling out some cool choices that they make throughout, musically, and maybe just establishing how some of those sounds are made. But really, I mean, other than the fact that it's just everything's exactly where it should be and it's in the right place and it's quintessential Tool, there's not much else to say. I did enjoy it, absolutely. And I feel like I am at a point in my life where this was the right time. But, you know, I'm going to have to really take a bit of a dive into Fear Inoculum and see if it's the right time. Because the way that you know is you put it on and you have it in the background and you realize halfway through you're not connecting to the songs. And so that's not the right time. Eventually, you'll play it at the right time and you'll be like, man, oh, this is magic, you know. So this might be that time. I know it's kind of weird and quirky how I relate to Tool like that. I just always have though. So it's been working for me so far. I'll probably end up doing more of these. I really would love to explore more of this, you know, more popular songs and stuff like that in more of a review or dissection sort of capacity. Because what's interesting is I end up finding things in the songs that I hadn't noticed as well, because there's so much richness and so much depth to the tapestry. A lot of things you miss unless you're critically analyzing them, which is not how most people listen to music. So I'd really love to do, obviously, Lateralis. Enchroma would be great. I'd even do Hooker with a Penis, you know, which is not everyone's cup of tea, but man, that's, to me, I'm a big fan of when Maynard's angry about stuff, and that's the perfect quintessential Maynard's angry about stuff song. Yeah, but stay tuned. I'll probably do more. Again, they won't be so much of a reaction video because I've heard them and stuff like that. And who knows, I may do some more stuff with Fear Inoculum. I might even travel back to like Opiate and stuff because those are albums I haven't heard in many, many years. So, you know, it might be worth revisiting them as well. But anyway, as I said many times, if you feel like I've brightened your day at all and you feel up to it, buy me a coffee. I'll put a link in the description. All of these get demonetized, so it'd be nice, you know, to be able to eventually do this full time. You know, but the best way you can help me with that is to like, follow, and subscribe, and share as well. Yeah, but thank you so much for sticking around. I know this is a long one. You should have strapped in. But yeah, anyway, I'll catch you guys on the next one.